Scanning for audio.
Welcome to a Tin Dog podcast, this time talking about number 258 main range Doctor Who release, Warzone and Conversion. Now, let's look at this. We've had two-parters so far. This is the third release in a row, which is also one two-parter, which makes three two-parters. So this is a trilogy of six. 6 stories, 3 releases, making one story arc. Not going to tell you what happens at the end, that would be a spoiler. Written by Guy Adams and Chris Chapman, so what you've got is a two-parter. Now, here's a word of warning. If you do go for downloads and you've got a Samsung phone and use the Samsung app and you unpack it, your Samsung audio app may accidentally put story number 2 before story number 1. I was kind of engrossed in story number 2 before I looked at the cover and went, hang on, that's not what the first one's called. The first one's called Warzone. So I then went back and listened to Warzone and then came back and listened to, Conversion. So Chris Chapman's Warzone. At Warzone, competitors gather from across the galaxy to test their limits of their endurance and achieve their personal best. So when the TARDIS materialises in the middle of the racetrack, the Doctor and his friends must literally run for their lives. See, I'd not read the description. So in my head, Warzone was like, the War Games. They'd landed somewhere like that, or the Death Zone or something like that. And the place was desolate and had an electric fence and things like that. And eventually you find out that it's basically one massive glorified fun run, which is just weird as a storyline. But because I'd started listening to the slightly darker second story and I knew where this was going first, it just felt odd. So I had to go back and sort of wipe my mind and start again. And if you approach it properly, you've got the slightly lighter but enormously leading on to the second story. It's got its arc. Story to do with the fun run that is just insane. But it does feel likely to have happened. It feels very real. It feels like the sort of thing that we would have here, possibly televised. To be fair, things that are on TV now are slightly worse than this, so it does work. Yes, one of the big things in this whole set is the stress and emotional trauma that the Fifth Doctor and the rest of the team are suffering after Adric's demise. That's kind of gone into a lot more in the second story. But it is an echo that runs throughout this whole thing. There was no emotional baggage brought about, very little, by Adric's existence, by Adric's demise. And yes, this is one of the arguments for Doctor Who being a kids' show. So we can now access this aspect of Doctor Who storytelling a lot more and in a lot more depth, most making us all feel better. Yes, the racetrack stories fine, the fun run, the costumes, the peril, what happens to them, the why it's all occurring is a bit scary and a bit terrifying. And of course, the incidents that happen at the end of this story lead directly into the incidents happening in story number 2. Now, story number 1, that's the Warzone one, is quite nicely thought out. It's got the whole people splitting off into, 3 narrative groups, and then it goes back into 2, and you've got that continuation. But in the second story, you've got Nyssa and a sort of squiddy vegetable monster thing in one storyline. You've got the Doctor and Tegan in another, and Mark's of course with Nyssa, and those storylines run concurrently. And this one This one is the Cyberman heavy story. There are Cybermen on the front of the box, and I know people will just be buying this just because it's got the Cybermen on it. Do you need to have experienced the other stories? No, but trust me, you're massively missing out. If you're only going to buy Cyberman releases, well then, fair enough. This is a box set that you will require. Oh, there's one bit where the Cybermen are talking in unison, and I couldn't quite help but think of the Wombles. Perhaps that's just me and my sarcastic head. I genuinely suspect it was. Because in Story 2, Conversion by Guy Adams, here's the synopsis. On the fringes of the galaxy, techno-pirates and research medics fight for the secrets of advanced extraterrestrial technology. For the Doctor, however, a more personal battle awaits as he confronts his own guilt and the creatures that killed a friend, the Cybermen. Yes, we'd like the Cybermen. Yes, Davy Banks and his mate are here. That's great. Very happy. Excellent. I just love the voice. It's brilliant. The performances are great. That use of emotion to mask the fact that they don't have emotion. The fact that the Cyber Leader can reappear in other storylines because even if he's killed, his programming and core is uploaded to the Cyber mainframe and then downloaded. It's lovely. Because you can get the recurring villain without all of that tedious not getting defeated nonsense. It's brilliant. A stroke of genius. You can have Davy Banks turning up as much as you want in as many stories as you want because he is Cyber Leader, because that's the programming that just infects someone else. It's superb. Yes, you've got the whole, oh, I'm a Cyberman, I'm not a Cyberman, I'm human. That battle thing's great. All of that brilliantly delivered. And then you've got the Doctor purposefully quoting Adric, dealing with the emotional loss. Oh, superb stuff. So, here's the trailer, and as always, decide for yourself. But this is a trilogy in 6 parts, and all 6 of them are available in the last 3 releases. And I'm sure this storyline isn't going anywhere. I'd like to know where it goes next, in at least 2 directions. So until next time, as always, be seeing you.
Oh, the stench of battle, fire and blood.
A valley of crimson trenches. Fires burning into a charcoal sky. Oh dear.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who. Warzone. Conversion.
This is going out to every combatant in Sector Q. Grit those teeth and give me a great big Warzone! Warzone! I can't hear you! Warzone! Oh, you lot sound pretty awesome. Stay alive out there.
Hold on. Why do we even need to do this? Let's just stop running and go home. Problem solved.
Anyone who stops too long gets picked up by the sweeper, and that means disqualification, incarceration, public shaming.
Well, maybe that's better than killing ourselves out here.
Having your biology physically rewritten must be excruciating. Most humans would have been driven insane long before now.
The human female is suitable for conversion.
I'd rather die.
Perhaps, but that would be a waste of resources. You will become like us.
Big Finish. We love stories.
How bad is it? Doctor, talk to me, please.
The Cybermen took Adric. I refuse on my lives. I refuse to let them take another friend from me. You hear me, Tegan? This is not happening. Not today. Not ever again.
That was the Doctor Who Tin Dog Podcast, available on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter, RSS, Vimeo, and across the internet. Doctor Who and its associated properties are all copyright and trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Why not become a supporter by visiting patreon.com/tindog. Contact the show on tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The Tin Dog Podcast is a founder member of the Doctor Who Podcast Alliance.